In the context of the South China Sea, a long-standing conflict has brewed between the Philippines and China due to disagreements over territory and overlapping claims. Throughout the 1990s and 2000s, discussions aimed to address these disputes unfolded. However, tensions escalated as China asserted control over islands, reefs, and features in the South China Sea, some of which were also claimed by the Philippines. A significant turning point occurred in 2012 with the Scarborough Shoal standoff, a tense clash between Philippine and Chinese vessels in a disputed area. This event led the Philippines to bring the matter to the Permanent Court of Arbitration, PCA, in The Hague. In 2016, a crucial ruling from the PCA favored the Philippines, dismissing China's historic rights claims in the South China Sea. Despite this ruling, China persisted in its assertive actions. Yet a new chapter emerged in China-Philippines relations after 2016. With the arrival of the new president in 2022, the Philippines has shifted its stance, moving away from China and establishing closer ties with the United States. In today's video, we will discuss China-Philippine close ties during the period of President Rodrigo. We will ponder on the reduced Chinese influence in the Philippines, and lastly, we will delve on the Chinese response. But before moving forward, we would like you to subscribe to the channel for more updates. In 2016, a significant change took place in the Philippines as the presidential election brought Rodrigo Duterte into power. After his election in 2016, Philippine President Rodrigo Duterte consistently emphasized his anti-U.S. stance and his preference for closer ties with China. During his first visit to Beijing in 2016, he announced his intention to distance the Philippines from the United States, which pleased Chinese President Xi Jinping. He openly embraced investments from China's Belt and Road Initiative, and he even talked about the possibility of suspending joint military exercises with the United States, referring to China as a good friend. It was the start of something new, a partnership that many thought was the start of China's ingress into the region. For instance, under Duterte, the Philippines took a more conciliatory approach to China in the South China Sea dispute. Duterte refused to assert the Philippines' victory in the 2016 arbitration case against China, and instead focused on improving economic ties with Beijing. Although the Belt and Road Initiative had been introduced in 2013, it was only under Duterte's leadership that the Philippines officially became a part of it. Militarily, the romance was something else. In 2017, China donated 2 former Navy ships to the Philippines, and it also provided the Philippines with training on how to use Chinese-made weapons. This helped to improve the Philippines' military capabilities, and it also strengthened the ties between the two countries' militaries. The Philippines also participated in joint military exercises with China. In 2018, the Philippines and China held their first joint military exercise, which focused on disaster relief and maritime security. This was a significant step forward in the two countries' military cooperation, and it showed that they were willing to work together on issues of common interest. On the flip side, despite Duterte's support for the Belt and Road Initiative, several projects involving China faced controversies. For instance, China Telecom's investment, the Kaliwa Dam, Safe Philippines, and the Chico River project all encountered issues. Concerns ranged from economic worries, such as the possibility of falling into a debt trap, or having unsustainable debt, to social concerns like the lack of consultations with affected communities, environmental issues, and geopolitical tensions, particularly related to the South China Sea. However, something interesting happened in 2022 during the Philippines' new presidential elections. Bongbong Marcos ended up winning. Surprisingly, some people in Beijing didn't realize that this marked the beginning of their influence becoming weaker in the Philippines. It was like a change was starting to happen. The Philippines has decided to make a big change in its defense policy. The new president, Bongbong Marcos, has decided to work closely with the United States, This decision is causing China's influence in the Philippines to become weaker. The United States will now have more access to the Philippines' military bases. The new bases are strategically positioned in Isabela, Cagayan, and Palawan. These places are important because they are close to Taiwan and the disputed Spratly Islands in the South China Sea. The U.S. will invest a lot of money in improving these bases to make sure they are ready for any situation. This is a significant deal that allows the U.S. to be more present in the region. They will be able to use 4 extra military bases, which are located in important parts of the country. These locations will help the U.S. keep an eye on what China is doing in the South China Sea and near Taiwan. This move is seen as a way for the Philippines to strengthen its defense against any aggressive actions from China. This new agreement is a part of the Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement, EDCA, between the Philippines and the U.S. It lets the U.S. use Philippine bases for training, storing equipment, and building facilities. Although the U.S. already had access to 5 sites, this expansion will make their presence even stronger. China, however, is not happy about this development. They believe that the U.S. is trying to strengthen its military power in the region just for its own benefit. China's Foreign Affairs spokesperson criticized the U.S. for causing tension and instability in the area. They warned other countries to be careful about getting involved with the U.S. This move also helps the Philippines balance its relationships with both the U.S. and China. Overall, the Philippines' decision to work closely with the United States and allow greater access to its military bases shows that China's influence in the country is fading. This shift in alliances aims to strengthen the Philippines' security and protect its interests in the region. The Philippines is also getting help from Japan and South Korea, which is making the situation even more edgy for China. But China's response is even more scary. In April, a ship from China's Coast Guard created a dangerous situation when it blocked a Philippine patrol vessel in the South China Sea. This near collision occurred in an area where China's large territorial claims have worried the United States and its friends. Manila believes that this action by China follows a pattern they've seen before. Interestingly, this event took place just after President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. of the Philippines met with China's Foreign Minister Qin Gang in Manila. During the meeting, President Marcos expressed a desire for better communication about the South China Sea dispute. Over 6 days, and covering a distance of 1,670 kilometers, 2 Philippine Coast Guard ships were shadowed by Chinese ships. These Chinese ships seemed to follow the Philippine vessels at specific locations, sending them warnings through radio to leave or face consequences. Journalists were invited by the Philippine Coast Guard to join the patrol in the contested waters. This was done to provide first-hand evidence of China's actions. While everyone is focusing on the Taiwan issue, something risky is happening in the South China Sea that's not getting much attention. China's Coast Guard and Philippine patrol boats have had some tense encounters. This is a dangerous situation that could lead to bigger problems. It seems like the Philippines is teaming up with the United States to try to control China, kind of like a plan to keep China's power in check. This situation is important because it's happening at the same time as the tensions over Taiwan. While everyone is watching what's happening around Taiwan, another potential conflict is brewing in the South China Sea. Even though it's not grabbing headlines, it's still a serious matter and adds more complexity to what's going on in that part of the world. The Philippines is changing how it deals with China, and this seems to be part of a bigger plan by the United States to contain China's influence. By working more closely with the U.S. and standing up to China's actions, the Philippines is helping to limit China's power in the region. This is what the U.S. wants, to make sure China doesn't get too strong and cause problems for other countries. What's interesting is that this is different from how things were when Rodrigo Duterte was the president of the Philippines. Back then, Duterte was friendly with China and didn't push back against its actions. Now, with the new leader, things are changing and China's influence seems to be getting weaker in the Philippines. But let's not forget that this situation is complicated. The Philippines might be doing this not just because of the U.S., but also to protect its own land and people. And while the Philippines' actions might help contain China, we don't know for sure how well this strategy will work in the long run. In the end, what's happening in the South China Sea shows how countries are trying to work together and manage the power struggles in the region. As we watch these events unfold, we need to pay attention and try to understand what it all means for the future.